Travis Wayne Goodsill. In this video I'm going to instruct you on how to identify signs in the heavens and identify the patterns for what to look for and expect, predict, prophesy. The first picture I have on the screen here is of the Wadjet eyes of Horus. You'll see that the person who did this picture is not too knowledgeable. He learned a little bit, but I'm going to correct it for you. They're both the eyes of Horus. Ra is a later joining with Amun, which is the sun god, and at center south north, or center south at noonday. Just got back, so I'm a little winded. And it's the right eye, and it represents government. The left eye is representative of the moon, and it's for religion. In the ancient world, governments were theocracies, a combination of government and religion. Thus, the two eyes are government and religion. Left eye for religion, right eye for government. And Thoth, that's King David. He plays a role in the beginning of creation, as well as with the beginning of the kingdom. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I could tell you, but we're not getting into that. Horus is the son of Osiris, who was murdered by his brother Set. Set then usurped the kingdom, just like Jacob usurped the kingdom from Esau. That's why Jacob is called usurper. And that's why Jacob was given the new name Israel, because the promised Horus would come through Jacob's line now instead of Esau's. Likewise, in the final battle between Horus and Set, Horus has Set eat a salad in which Set is impregnated, gives birth to a branch. If you're familiar with your Old Testament about the last days Messiah being called the branch, that's where it comes from. Also, the first death of two deaths of Osiris, he grows into a tree, and so Ezekiel talks about a twig being taken from that tree and carried to America in the latter days for the latter days Messiah. Again, don't have time to go over it. We're going over the signs in the heavens. I'm giving you a background so that you can understand that when the scriptures talk about the sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood for the latter days, this is what they're referring to. The eyes of Horus, the coming of the latter days Messiah, to restore the kingdom of David, the Ancient of Days. And so what what I'll be doing is after I talk about my education and how I first learned about this, I'll then go into each of the signs in the heavens of the latter days, starting with the 2002 Winter Olympics and getting to where we're headed in our current time. And I'll stop the video, put the pictures up, and then explain the pictures, and then put the next pictures, etc. So I married a Canadian at Rick's. She took me to Canada, where they hand out free babies and pay you for them. Cute, adorable little kids. But I continued my education up there because it's cheaper with student loans. And had taken Old Testament or ancient Middle Eastern cultures. Thomas Robinson was the main teacher for the various courses, and I took all of his, and then took Greek from him as well. His Greek dictionary with the CD-ROM, that would have been me who made that, but I had graduated the final class of when I took Greek, and so I wasn't able to stick around because I got deceived into coming to Utah. But learned about the Bible cultures far better than I did with Rick's, taking the Bible courses. I can't begin to tell you how much better an education it is outside of the church. And so when long story short, ended up at the University of Utah. And again, got myself involved in ancient Middle Eastern history courses, as well as all of Eva Vasilevska's anthropology of the ancient Middle East, which focused mostly on Egyptian. And it was in the history class, can't remember the name of the professor, but he went over an Assyrian story, an Assyrian text, about a king in Assyria who was planning to do battle with an eastern country. It's unclear as to whether it was Persia or if it was even beyond Persia. It's most likely beyond Persia because of the tale. And he consults his priests, asks them, is everything good? Is there a good omen for battle? And the priests consult the star charts. Don't see anything wrong. Yeah, it looks good. Go for it. So he marches off with the caravan off to the east. And in the commencement of the battle, a total solar eclipse occurs. Now, I could be able to figure that out. It would take some time. I have the stellarium to do it. But I'd probably be quicker to see if I can find it on Wikipedia's solar eclipse list. But I can't find their BC last I checked. Their BC listing was gone. So I'd have to check my files to see if I can find the download. But he was kind of shocked because they all understood right eye, government, and when it's eclipsed, that means collapse, even death of the king. And so he was, scared, furious, angry, denial, stages of grief, which are incomplete and inaccurate, but nonetheless, he asked the priest, what's going on? I thought everything was going to be fine. And they said, we don't know what happened. It's not on our star chart. And so they told the king that, well, why don't we get a replacement? We can have one of the peasants that is servant slaves that are with us, make him king for a day, and then we'll sacrifice him to appease the gods and the sign in the heavens and blah blah blah, and so superstition will be taken care of. And so they do that, and the slave is king for a day and then is slaughtered in the evening. And then the priests realize, oh crap, no wonder our star charts are for Assyria, not this country in the east. It means that that king will be conquered in battle and you will be triumphant. And so he's pissed, has them killed, gets new priests, and away he goes and conquers in battle. And so that story was the baseline for this understanding. And I think we're ready for the 2002 Winter Olympics. All right, so this is the 2002. This was back when Utah had the Winter Olympics, back in the days when we used to have snow. It used to be called greatest snow on earth. Now we're given the death name Life Elevated, which refers to living after death. Way to go, Herbert. But you'll notice all 5 visible planets are in the sky at the setting of the sun. The sun is in front of them and is setting first, and so that's why you see them all. They're all 5 visible planets, and they're all viewed in the sky at the same time. And I had my video recorder. I was going to try to see if I can capture them on VHS tape. You see, kids, in my day. But my neighbor got caught by me spying on the neighbors directly across the street from him. See, their window is by him, and I guess he couldn't just sit in the living room to watch them. Came out around the house, and I saw him, and I thought, well, you know, he's going to realize, no, spying on the neighbors is not a good idea. Instead, I should have been vocal with him, because he went and turned around and accused me to my parents of being the spy. Anyway, this is what I was looking for. Mercury is at the upper ear. Venus and Mars are between the horns, and Saturn is on the lower horn of Taurus, and then Jupiter is way up in the middle of Gemini. So if you remember your scriptures, Hinckley wanted to indicate that the Olympics was a partial fulfillment. I can only find Vaughn J. Featherstone making this claim, that the Isaiah passage, that all nations shall come to the house of the Lord, and blah blah blah. So this is where they claim. So all nations coming to Utah. You know, it's a simple one. I've not seen another one to support it. I won't go into the interpretation. It's not necessary. Let's get into the deaths. first eclipse I got to test was with Faust, James E. Faust. He died on the 10th of August, 2007, and he was followed by the total lunar eclipse on the 28th of August, 2007. And you'll notice that the moon was in the constellation of Aquarius, right there in his belly. And Aquarius is the Egyptian symbol of a high priest, pouring out water as the high priest did in the characters of the Egyptian hieroglyphs. And so normally it would be a full moon in Aquarius, except that it's a total lunar eclipse. Seeing shadows move. It shouldn't be the rose bushes. And so with a total solar or total lunar eclipse, did I say solar? With a total lunar eclipse, for the high priest symbol, where the moon is, yeah, it's a death of a high priest. Isn't that fun? And I'm not the one who makes this. This is a sign in the heaven. They're fixed. It was foreordained in the premortal councils of heaven that Faust was to die on 10th of August 2007 with his sign on the 28th of August 2007. I don't make this up. This is the pattern. And so notice that it's 18 days after he died that the lunar eclipse happened. Okay? This is the first pattern that I'm exposed to for the lunar eclipses. I'd been taught about the solar eclipses, and now I'm getting my experience with lunar eclipses. I am being taught because none of my teachers taught me. They just taught me the basic understanding of the ancients. So now I have to see if there is a pattern in the heavens with events on Earth. And if you're unfamiliar with that, you need to refer to the Joseph Smith translation for Revelation and chapter 12, because there's a change in verse 1. And there appeared a great sign in heaven, in the likeness of things on the earth. So signs always represent the actual thing they symbolize as a sign. And that's all they're really doing here, is making that clarity. Ooh, I shouldn't have said that. Clarity is a bad word. There's a company named Clarity that got busted for corruption and scams or whatever. So, yeah, and for clarity? No, that's the same word. Makes more sense. Okay, so death number 1 that taught me on this process. Do you notice the fascinating twist between Faust and Hinckley? With Faust, the moon is in the belly of Aquarius. The sun is in Leo, the lion. With Hinckley, the moon is in Leo, the lion, and the sun is in the belly of Aquarius. Hinckley's the president of the church. Sort of like the governing leader, but religious at the same time. So the governing leader of the high priest, the president of the high priest. See how cool this is? I don't make these up. You probably have to zoom in to see the date at the bottom. I don't know why they won't allow me to make it a bigger. You can get your own stellarium, stellarium.org, and see for yourself to confirm. But yeah, quite cool. Before I forget, I should probably add that Hinckley also is 1 month before the total lunar eclipse. He died on the 27th of January 2008, and then 21st of February 2008 was the total lunar eclipse. So it was within, let's see, 31 days, so 25. Okay, so about 5 days, 4 or 5 days within a month's time, going by lunar months versus calendar months. So that's interesting. And before I forget, I should probably also add Leo the Lion is on the crown of the Virgin, Virgo, who is the one in Revelation chapter 12 verse 1 that I read to you, that gives birth to the last days Messiah. And in his description, he adds 3 stars to Leo. And that's crucial because it corresponds with the Book of Mormon, where you see the sun at noonday appears to Lehi in the first chapter dream, and then 12 stars following him. Well, that's referring to Revelation chapter 12 is what he's seeing. He's seeing the latter day coming of the Messiah, of the learning of the Jews, not Christians, gospel, Jesus Christians. Do I have to go over Constantine created Christ, Jesus? And so if you impose Constantine's Christ onto the Bible, oops. So yeah, the stories in the Bible, even the Gospels, did not happen. They're referring as prophecies of the latter day. And I shouldn't go into it, but this all has to do with it. Section 103, verse 16. Do your own research, or you can listen to the videos where I talk about it. So, yeah, the 12 apostles is understood in that context from Revelation. And what's also interesting is that Judah, in his patriarchal blessing by his father Jacob, the usurper, and Judah is specifically named as the betrayer. He betrayed his brother Joseph, selling him into Egypt. Judas betrays the Roman period Gospels failure of Christ. And there's a reason why it was a failure. It has to do with the time frame of when the Gospels were written. Because Christians at that time were all about, I want to be a martyr. And it was pissing the Romans off. Because people were purposely throwing themselves before the sword so that they can be remembered for time and all eternity as martyrs. And that was what gave rise to the gospel stories when you merge it with Constantine's creation of Jesus. So, tangent, stay away. Stay away, Travis. But it's the Judah's blessing that he's a lion's whelp. So the lion has been the symbol of Judah. And phonetically, it's the exact same phonemes, combination of phonemes, as Utah. It's not J, it's the Yah, the Hebrew God, Yahweh, Jehovah. The J is a European phonetic corruption. And so Yudah and T and D are the same, spell past. Utah. So another interesting twist, a Utah spiritual leader are dying in both of these cases with James Faust and Gordon B. Hinckley. Do you guys see it? Do you see why I'm so excited when I do a Sign in the Heaven video for you guys? And what thanks do I get? This stuff is cool. It just blows my mind. But first, let's deal with the first frame first. This was huge. The tetrad with 3 apostles dying and a transfer of authority power in the apostles. Remember, Packer dies, Nelson takes over. This is all part of the prophecies. And so, the tetrad was 4 lunar eclipses in a row on Jewish holy days, Passover and Tabernacles. Passover, Exodus. Tabernacles, ingathering, harvest time, gathering of Israel. See how it's playing out for the latter days. And in between, there was a solar eclipse. It was up in Iceland. I didn't think it had any bearing until I just put in the inserts. Holy crap! So, yeah, after the third one, which the third one was on Saturday morning session of General Conference, and to the fourth one. So we're looking at a brand new pattern than previous with Faust and Hinckley. even though Faust and Hinckley had their own unique pattern going on there, here we have something wild, totally crazy. From the 1 AD, there have only been 8. This was number 8, where all a tetrad falls on Jewish holy days. Only 8 in the it's over 2,000 years. So that's impressive. And then the first to go was Elder Perry, 30th of May, 2015. Then President Packer. There was the transfer of authority to Nelson, 3rd July 2015. And then Scott made it 6 days before the final 4th one, on 22nd September 2015. So Hinckley had beaten him by a day before the final one. And so this was a brand new pattern for me. I had heard about the April 15th, 2014 one, and I thought, oh, okay, well, we'll see if the previous pattern continues. Oh, nothing. Okay. Then October comes around. A second one? Nobody told me about a second one. But nothing. And then for the 4th one, the news finally revealed, oh yeah, this is part of a tetrad. Knuckleheads. And so yeah, that one was huge when I realized it was on conference weekend. And so yeah, huge. That in and of itself is impressive. But wait, there's more. The April ones, let's see, yeah, the April lunar eclipses are in Virgo. The first one starts in Bethlehem. That's Spica, the house of bread. That's the house of bread star. That's Bethlehem. And so, yes, the Gospels are prophecies of the latter days and indicating signs in the heavens as well. Because this, I put in the lunar eclipse from my stellarium. I didn't know I could see lunar eclipses. I thought they didn't show, but when I got closer, I noticed, hey, wait a minute, that's slightly red. And so I got closer, and they show lunar eclipses. Awesome. But the sun, in connection with the lunar eclipses in Aprils, are in Pisces. And anybody recall that Jesus guy where he's doing the Lord's Supper with 2 fish and loaves of bread? Yeah, that's what it's referring to. Pisces and Spica in Virgo. And so that's the twist here that Faust and Hinckley had with each other. It's repeating itself in a new form. It's now Virgo and Pisces. And for the October ones, the moon is in Pisces and the sun is in Virgo. See how awesome this is? And that's April 15. The October 15. Yeah, there were stars falling from the heavens on the October 15 one. If you notice, there's like a bluish green, and then there's a yellow. Those are all meteorite showers. So fascinating. But then the solar eclipse that I didn't think had any bearing on the signs, but after what we've just had and what we are about to have on Thursday, it all makes sense now. We're witnessing the pattern. And so what you see is the solar eclipse going over Iceland, up near the North Pole. Yep, there it goes, right up to the North Pole. And so it's in Pisces. Now, I've done the video, but because I can't put all information into one video and make it a short 5-minute video for you, so you literally have to watch all my videos. Remember, we're not looking for the Christian Constantine Jesus. We're looking for the learning of the Jews Messiah Christ. 103:16, Doctrine and Covenants. This is when his birth date is, his actual birth date. That's why Pisces is significant here, as it's I want to figure, it's it's contrasted with Virgo, where the sign in Revelation 12 says that the Messiah sign of his birth occurs. So you see his real birth on earth contrasted with the sign in the heaven birth for this tetrad. And then an eclipse, a solar eclipse, in Pisces. Because this isn't him, this is preparation for him. Because the government and the religion, the theocracy, anciently, have to collapse. That's why Moses takes over. The son of Pharaoh dies. The dynasty ends. There's nobody to take the throne anymore. And so a new dynasty begins with Moses, the millennial reign of peace, as it's understood for Mormons. And yeah, and so we'll get to it when we get to it. But keep in mind, we just had a lunar eclipse. 2 days from now is the solar eclipse over the North Pole. And then I had found, not too long ago, the 19 November lunar eclipse. So we've got a lunar eclipse, the solar eclipse, which is annular eclipse, it's not a total, and it goes over the similar path as this one here in 2015 in March. And so, yeah, guess what's coming, Mormons? And I'm willing to bet, because of the pattern of the tetrad, that it will be after Thursday. After Thursday, and I'm willing to bet it's before the end of the Jewish New Year, or end of the Jewish year. before the 7th of September, which starts the next Jewish year, because we are in the year that the Jews have designated 3,333 years from when they designated the Exodus of Moses. That's why. And so before the 7th of September, after Thursday, we're going to see something huge, probably even huger than the Tetrad, with 3 apostles dying. Isn't this exciting? And if you're Mormon, you're like freaking out. No, church is true. I don't make this up, guys. You should have been studying. You should have followed the scripture that said look for the signs, so that you won't be deceived by false prophets and Christs, so that you will recognize and know the real Christ when he comes. Because section 103:16 says he's among you, Mormons. Are you deniers? Are you deniers of the prophets? The prophecies prophets, not the current prophets. They're not telling you any of this stuff. There are Mormon crickets going on. When Amos 3:7 says they're supposed to be telling you and warning you and preparing you for what was to come. And section 45, where I got that scripture from, coronavirus. Now, if Mormons think that the prophets know all things and that they therefore knew a coronavirus was coming, why then did they sabotage Mormons so that they can make profit off of it? $6 billion. But I'm tangenting. We're supposed to stick to the signs in the heavens, aren't we? All right. Next comes another big one. Am I doing... I have to do the... Nope, it is just deaths of LDS prophets and lunar eclipses. Okay. So maybe I should put in what I did here for the solar eclipse for the 3 days of darkness. Yes, all things are involved. So yeah, let's do that. So yes, the solar eclipse is next. I could put in the February 2017 partial lunar eclipse. That also played a part. But, well, because then I would have to also put in the election with Trump as he was on the top of Libra as Mercury. And this is already like 5 hours long, isn't it? No. Because that was also when conception occurred. There was a supermoon in November 2016. That was conception of the man-child. Not the actual one, because it was in March when his actual birth date is. He's nearing 50 by this point. The Jubilee year of the Jews, 3,333. And so, alrighty. Alright, let's, yeah, we'll do the video of each solar eclipse and this picture sign in the heaven. We'll do that. Okay. The solar eclipses have to be included, as we will close with the reason why. So, on the 21st of August, 2017, President Monson, on his deathbed, has his birthday. Deathbed, birthday. It's also the ancient Egyptian religious calendar New Year. Remember when we started with the first picture at the beginning? Horus, when he's doing battle with Set, at the beginning of the battle, Set plucks out Horus's right eye. Do you have any comprehension of how long ago they knew about this date of the latter days? And I'll give you a hint, it's pre-4000 BCE. Pre. This is how cool this is. And I learned about that date from those books right there. Those are the calendars for each of these latter days. I got them all the way up to the current year, back to 2013 now. I don't have, the others are packed. But the 2017 one, that's what I looked up when I bought it. I went, it was awesome. And so, yeah, it's essential. This is the first day of darkness. And the first year when Trump took office was put in by Russia. You can't deny that, because you'll be denying the Book of Mormon. In the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah, king of Judah, who put King Zedekiah on the throne in that first year? Babylon. He wasn't a true successor. See what I mean? But we're only going over the religious ones. We're not doing the presidential one. But they do connect. Again, anciently, this is theocracy. In America, it's split. And so the signs of the latter days are not talking about a single governing theocratic leader. It split them into the two. Very important. Alright, so then the next frame, that's Revelation 12, sign in the heaven for the Son of Man. That's his birth. Samuel the Lamanite also says there will be a sign of his birth. There it is, 23rd September 2017. This was when the brand new Relief Society president was put into the presidency from being the primary president over children, now over women. When a virgin has a baby, she's now a woman. 23rd September 2017, she is now a part of conference with the women's session. We just had breaking news yesterday about how the church is now silencing women in conference. The Salt Lake Tribune did an article yesterday also about will women get more speaking? No, of course not. They took out a whole women's conference. They're not getting more. There are 15 total prophets. You have to have all of them represent. And so what you're going to have is less 70 and less women. That's what they're planning. Don't think that women are going to get more involved. No. You're fooling yourself. Notice there are 3 stars added to Leo. Remember? 3 apostles died. Kind of important, because it all plays a part into this thing. And okay, and then the moon at the feet, which is at judgment, the top of the scales of judgment, which means the moon is the judge. Religion. All right, so Monson. There are other signs in Revelation 12. The sign of the dragon and the sign of the tails falling from the dragon. I did not put the sign of the dragon in here for you. It was on the 5th dark day of Hanukkah, December 17th, 2017, in case you were wondering. Serpens with Ophiuchus at the tail is where it's supposed to happen. So at the tail of Serpens is where they were all clustered together to make the total number of stars in Revelation 12. The sign of the dragon. The 5th dark day of the Festival of Lights, Hanukkah, Jewish holiday. Yeah. Awesome stuff, guys. You're missing out. So then we get into the new year. And there's a whole bunch of stuff going on Earth that are behind the scenes that we don't find out about until months later, that I have been reporting to you. Nonetheless, Monson dies 2nd of January 2018, 10:02 p.m. It is a supermoon still. It was a 2-day supermoon. And yes, as the picture tells you, Revelation chapter 12, verse 4, stars fall from the tail of the dragon. Dragon in this case is Draco the dragon. And the stars falling are the quadranted meteor showers. The 3rd largest meteor showers of the year. 1/3 of the stars. And then, on the 31st of January, so within a month, but just barely, it's like almost like a full month, from full moon to full moon, we get the longest super blood blue wolf total lunar eclipse full moon. That was awesome. There were so many unique, rare signs in the heavens through all of this. I don't think you guys are fully grasping how huge this is. What massive knowledge the prophets had to prophesy of this. And like I said, it came from the Egyptians long before 4000 BCE. And so, there it is on Monson's death, seeing the full picture, where the moon is in Cancer, the supermoon, that crab, and the Draco the dragon with the stars falling from the quadranted meteor showers. And then the sun is in Sagittarius, the half-horse, half-human archer. But what's important to recognize is that Jupiter, the last days Messiah, is there at the top of Libra with Mars. When Monson dies, Mars takes the top position. How is succession done in the church? Not according to the Doctrine and Covenants. Nelson now takes over. He replaced Packer, now he's replacing Monson. He's Mars. There's a whole lot more to talk about Mars as I've done the videos for them over these years. So Nelson now takes over the leadership of the church. And which one's this? That's the 31st. Okay, I don't need that for the 31st. But it is interesting, though, because Mars is now at the tree of knowledge of good and evil star, Akrib. He's been judged, and he failed. He fell. Jupiter is now being judged, and the sun is in the belly of the beast, the goat beast of Lucifer. I won't leave it in here. I'll take that out. Alright, so there's the 31st. Still in the crab. The super longest, whatever you call it. That's where it eclipses. Alright, and then I didn't need that. Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't need that. That was the wrong one. Well, yeah. I've been doing it as a pattern, showing where the sun is with the lunar eclipse. So there's the sun in the belly of the beast. Alright, and then this is the future. So now we need to get to what just happened and talk about what's coming. Alright, on Father's Day of 2020, back in June 2020, there was an eclipse, solar eclipse, that spanned the whole old world. I incorrectly thought that that was the second day of darkness. That's when I first recalled, oh yeah, 3 days of darkness. Oh. And then soon thereafter I realized, no, they have to be over America. And sure enough, such was the case. I'm remembering there were 2 other eclipses with Monson following that big one. There were 2 more. I need to check and verify. Now you guys, I just told you. So with Monson, there was a new pattern before the massive lunar eclipse, and then 2 more that followed it. And so it followed the original pattern, but it had extra massive implications assigned with it. It contrasted with his birthday during the total solar eclipse, the first day of darkness, and then his death corresponding with a lunar eclipse. So that's an interesting comparison switch. So that needs to be out there for you. And so Then we had the lunar eclipse for the 26th of May this year, and I thought, okay, is it going to follow the same pattern as Monson, Hinckley, and Faust? And technically, in a way, before the final one for Perry, Packer, and Scott. You know, it's always been before the final lunar eclipse, before the lunar eclipse or the final one. And so I was thinking, are we going to have the death of a prophet? Well, the answer is no. Obviously, it's come and gone. And so then I was wondering what's the cause. So we're getting to that. But first we need to go over that sign on the 26th of May, the lunar eclipse. The moon was at the star Akrib, the knowledge of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The fall. See, it's right there at the end of the scales of judgment. And there's a fall. And not just any fall. A total lunar eclipse fall. Massive. And so on the sun part of it, it's in Taurus, and in between the horns is Mercury and Venus. Very interesting. And we're not talking about them with you, because again I said that we're focusing on the prophets' deaths, and we're already well over an hour now. So yeah, so here next will be Thursday. Oops, wrong button. And of course I forgot to include the lunar eclipse was also a supermoon. Hey, it's early in the morning. I don't have it saved. There was an error made by transferring files in the midst of saving, and so I had to wait until the morning. And as a result, I realized I could go over with you where this June 21st, 2020 Father's Day eclipse over the whole old world took place. And it's at the end of the club of Orion. In Egyptian, this is Osiris. And by taking out the weak star at the bottom of the sundial, it looks like a shofar horn, and thus giving a message. And so it fits the symbolism that I will be informing you of right after this. And so that's important to understand, is that a message is being given at this point. So, my goodness, almost 2 hours. And of course, during my run, I realized that I should also add, it didn't even finish saving by the time I finished my run. Oh my goodness, this is going to take forever today. But this is the Wednesday video for the prophets for their Thursday meeting to discuss, and this time they'll have something to panic over again. If you're unfamiliar, Wednesdays are the video days where it catches the attention of the prophets, and why YouTube has been such an ass towards me. So I replaced the picture that you just saw of being in Jerusalem with Baghdad, Iraq, which is Babylon. So yes, the symbol that is being messaged out by Osiris is that Babylon is about to be destroyed. Revelation, Doctrine and Covenants. Not a coincidence that it includes Babylon in that sign. I should also point out Osiris is the father of Horus, as I've mentioned. The three belts of Orion point to the dog star Sirius, which is in Egyptian the star of Horus, who is stood on by his mother Isis. We don't have that constellation, as we have the dog star constellation replacing it. And so Heavenly Father is therefore announcing not only that Babylon is to be destroyed, but that this is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. Harkens to that as well. And I need to throw in Superman for you. Superman was created by two Jews, and so it's created in the learning of the Jews. The whole Superman character is the last days Messiah. And so he comes from outer space, is a baby on Earth, mortal. His power is given to him by the Son. He is therefore adopted into mortal parents, but has the half-god nature in him. As his name is Kal-El, El being God, and he takes the Earth name of Clark Kent, the K sound, with his actual name from Krypton, is to show that he is to come out of white supremacy, KKK, to save America from white supremacy. Do you see how they understand this? And Superman was created before World War II. Was it in the 20s or the 30s when Superman was created? But could have been a response to Hitler when he took over in the 30s. Is likely. I'm not going to check. But it ties in with St. Patrick. And I remember somewhere in here I told you Pisces has to do with the actual birth of the Horus Last Days Messiah. And it's because of St. Patrick. St. Patrick was recorded or told, because I don't think that, well, they didn't keep a genealogy, the English Druids. And so what emerged by the 1500s was the name for that high priest group that created or told the story of St. Patrick, whom the Catholics designated as a saint. He chased out the snakes out of Ireland, according to the story, after the snakes were already chased out of Ireland. And thus, the story written by these English druids was a prophecy for the future last days Messiah. And they're giving his birth date with the death date of St. Patrick, St. Patty's Day. And so whether he was actually kidnapped to Ireland, got freed, became a Catholic priest, and went back to Ireland to convert the Irish or preach among the Irish, it's unclear as to how much of that is accurate versus prophecy, because the snakes thing, no snakes. But the Druids were high priests after the Order of the Sun, and thus their name, when it started to be written in the 1500s, was God Sol. Sol for the French, Soleil. Sun gods. And that ties in with Superman as well. So, kind of cool stuff. Yeah, so I covered the Orion's Belt, Babylon, and Superman St. Patrick connection. I think that's it. Well, I got to watch Lois and Clark, I guess, or Superman and Lois. That's the name of the newest version from last night. So, Loki also begins yesterday or today, so I should be able to watch that on Disney Plus. And I'm most likely able to watch Kung Fu as well, all before this finished saving. Yeah, sure enough, another edition. China. In 1970, it was the year of the dog. And that's when, on St. Patrick's Day in 1970, that's when he would have been born in Pisces. Because 50 years is 2020, which was last year, when 3,333 years from the Exodus. And the Jubilee year of the Jews. The dog sign for that year corresponds with Sirius, who is Horus in Egyptian, which is the dog star in the dog constellation. So, more confirmation. And then I could even throw in Joseph Smith. Brigham Young wrongfully kicked out Thomas B. Marsh from the presidency of the president of the Quorum of the 12. Missionaries with only the keys of Peter, James, and John, not the key of Moses. And Brigham Young wrongfully, without authority, excommunicated him on the 17th of March, 1839. Joseph Smith then went on to give women the priesthood on what day? 17th of March, 1842. As women with the priesthood, which then get kidnapped and held sexually hostage in the sex slavery of Brigham Young with polygamy, who took away their priesthood. and thus they were a part of the Great and Abominable Church, and thus those women would give birth in March 17th, 1970, the anniversary of Relief Society, to the Last Days Messiah of the Mormons, who is to restore Joseph's church, set in order the temple, and establish Zion, because the Great and Abominable Church has no interest in establishing Zion for a place of safety, refuge, and peace. So yes, I can keep coming up with stuff, but we're sticking to the deaths of the prophets with the lunar eclipses. And of course I need to include with the lunar eclipse on the 26th of May, Jupiter is in Aquarius. He's now in the high priest position. That's why it's important to know that we're in a drought, that the rivers are dried up as the waters have parted in Exodus time. And so, yeah, Jupiter is still in Aquarius as the high priest for Thursday. And even though I'm saying 2 days, it looks like I'm going to be putting this video up tomorrow morning. If you're still listening. And so, with the sign that is again over the North Pole. Remember the previous one over the North Pole that I didn't think was significant until I learned about this one being over the North Pole? In between solar eclipse or lunar eclipses? Yeah, we're seeing the pattern again. And here it's an annular eclipse in between the horns of the Apis bull of Egyptians, Taurus. The Apis bulls were often decorated with a solar disk between their crowns, and were part of sacrifice for the succession to the throne of the son, the prince, to become the king. And here we have, before the high priest is actually officially made the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, we still have the old theocracy, Pharaoh, split into religion and government, that still have not passed on, and the government and religion have not collapsed, so that the dynasty ends with the death of Pharaoh's son. Now, succession in the current day is more than just one person. If a president dies, vice president takes over. Vice president dies, the Speaker of the House takes over. And then the pro tempore of the Senate, whatever it's called. And then the presidential cabinet has a listing of the order of who is next in line for succession. So if the government is going to be destroyed, collapsed, it's more than just a single person to prevent the collapse to proceed with the collapse. It's a whole group of people. Same with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So when Nelson dies, Oakes takes over, and then Ballard, and then all down the list in the Quorum of the 12. And thanks to a certain somebody who wrote a letter to the 70, which they then had Wikipedia changed, the church is now under the impression that if all the prophets are gone, or there's not a majority to hold a quorum to conduct business, such as replacements and successor. The 70, which would be the presidency with the General 70. And so they would also have to go if the prophecies are going to be fulfilled. Just so that you are aware. And yeah, that's for, because I'm looking at the solar eclipse. Okay, so yeah, next is the lunar eclipse in November, and I don't think there's anything that I'm supposed to add. Oops. Wrong button again. Alrighty, so November 19th, we see a different kind of pattern. We have the lunar eclipse, which is a partial, not a full, and did I put the right eclipse in? I'm pretty sure, because there's, maybe I delete the other video that I put it in another, I put it already on a YouTube video preview. I'll have to check. But yeah, I should check to make sure that's the right video for the right one. It's a partial eclipse, but it's just a sliver. And it's got sign significance to it. And again, this is following the pattern of the tetrad between two lunar eclipses, with the deaths of 3 apostles and a leadership change. That's important to understand, because here we have Mars at the top of Libra again. Remember when he was at the top of Libra before? He was replacing Monson. And so with a lunar eclipse, even though it's partial, in Taurus, Jupiter is at the tail of the goat beast. Tail of the dragon, stars are falling. But Jupiter's not falling, Mars isn't taking over succession. It's a reversal because of the lunar eclipse. So Mars is falling, Jupiter is rising to take over. That's the significance of this right now that we are in the middle of. And we're about to have the annular eclipse over the North Pole again, after which we're expecting not just a prophet who's going to die, but we're expecting the big crash of the church. According to the pattern that I've laid out for you here in great detail, it's going to be loaded up for you tomorrow morning. This is the pattern. I'm not making this up. This is the pattern. Nobody can change the signs in the heavens. Nobody can create signs in the heavens. They are already set and fixed for eternity through eternity. Fixed. Nobody can change them. I can't do anything about them. And so this is what we're looking at. After Thursday, the countdown begins to when the collapse of the church. And I'm not talking about America yet. This is not for America, remember? We're not talking about the government part. That too is to collapse. And it has to be before the end of the Jewish year, which is 7 September. So it will be before 7 September to be also before November 19th. So these are just signs in the heavens. And so it's June, so July, August, less than 3 months away. We've already got the waters parted. Everything's ready to go. Pharaoh's been saying no. I've been doing that video for you too. I had unique playlists for you covering all that. So many no's. So, yeah, that's for what's coming. And then I'll go over the final 2 days of darkness and introduce the final picture, maybe pictures. No, picture, yeah. And explain why all this needs to be done. And you should already know, if you haven't figured it out by now. Alright, here you have the other 2 days of darkness that are still coming up. There's other signs that will be coming. Next year on the 15th of March, 2022, there will be a supernova explosion that we will see here on Earth. So a bright, brand new star in the heavens. So that's something to look forward to. But the second day of darkness is over America. The 3 days of darkness are over America. And thus, America is the land of destruction for the theocracy, which is split into government and religion. It's not Jerusalem. It's not Egypt. It's not Sodom. It's not wherever. It's America. Prophets use their nativity, or their land of residence, to describe the future. So Babylon shall fall, and it already fell. So they're using Babylon as code to help you understand the symbolic significance. Because Babylon had to fall in order for the Jews to be freed. And they fell because Persia took over. And so Cyrus of the Persians gives the edict for the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. And so the Jews see that event as a type and shadow of their future Messiah of the latter days. And he's not the Roman period Jesus. So, 14 October 2023, and it's occurring in Virgo, right there by Bethlehem. And then 8 April 2024, not 6 April, Mormons, 8 April. And there's significance to being on 8 April, because I didn't put this in, but there was a total solar eclipse 2020 years from 2024 on 8 April. It was over Russia. We're now in 2020. Russia were the ones who put Trump in the presidency. They're also the ones attacking America to destroy it. And there's a certain passage in Genesis about a guy named Abraham. That's his new name, from Abram. And he's taking his son Isaac. And we don't know his new name. We never know his new name. They never tell us. We just know his birth name, Isaac. Laughter. Mocking laughter. Some people try to say, no, it's not mocking. Yeah, it's mocking. Sarai, who was named Sarah, new name Sarah, when she was told by the messengers, hey, you're going to get pregnant, she laughed at them. It wasn't for joy, though it sort of was. She didn't believe. I'm too old to have kids. Ain't going to happen. Mocking laughter. Isaac. Yitzhak. And so when Yitzhak, Isaac, is 33 years old, remember Jesus of the Gospels is 30 when he starts his mission, 33 when he's dead and fails to save the Jews from the Romans. And so it's the year 33, because in the year of our Lord, that means 1 AD he was born? Well, that doesn't mesh with anything in the Bible. It's not supposed to. There's code going on. There are other people who know this information and who are purposely not telling you. But yes, 33 AD, Jesus is 33 years old. We are now 3,333 years from the Jewish designation of the Exodus. And yet, in the Book of Mormon, 600 years from the time Lehi left Jerusalem, which was the first year of the reign of Zedekiah, who was put on by Babylon, and the same year when Nephi is born, as he has a dream of the sign in the heaven of the birth sign and the death sign merged together. Because the final death sign that I'm going to tell you about is significant. Well, I am telling you about it, aren't I? It's the death sign. Jupiter is in Aries. So go back to Abraham sacrificing Isaac. Goes up to the top of the mountain, Utah. He's going to sacrifice the son, who is the successor to the throne. Pharaoh's son dies, remember? But then a messenger shows up, says, don't do it. And then a ram appears. Aries. The total solar eclipse in Russia in 4 AD, 8 April, was in Aries, with Mercury, the messenger of the gods. Yeah. So 600 years from the time Lehi left Jerusalem is 4 AD, 597 BCE. No zero year. Book of Mormon, in the first year, 2017, and the sign of death and destruction, 8 April 2024. As Revelation tells us, that is the date. 19 verses 11 and 17. 11 says that he is riding the horse, the white horse, in outer space. But it's a sign in the heavens. He clarifies that with us. Don't take out sign in the heavens. There is no such thing as a flying horse. And no Jesus from outer space. He's mortal. 103:16. Mormon. And so Pisces is on the back of Pegasus, the white horse. If you've ever seen Wrath of the Titans or Clash of the Titans, I think it's Clash of the Titans. I'm not sure if Pegasus is in Wrath of the Titans. I'd have to watch it again. But yeah, Pegasus. And notice he's half man, half God. Notice it's Zeus is his father, which in Paleo-Hebrew is pictorially the same as Yah, the Hebrew god. Zeus and Yah the same. And I've gone over with you how Yah is Father Yah, who has Son Yah involved in the creation of heaven and earth in Genesis chapter 1, when Genesis is translated correctly from the biblical Hebrew text. Joseph Smith is right, remember? And so then Yah gets the new name of Yahweh, which you incorrectly understand as Jehovah. This is the crowning moment to establish Zion. And the whole purpose of Zion is a place of peace, refuge, and safety from the coronavirus, from war. Because when America falls, the rest of the world will follow. everyone will collapse. That's what the Father's Day in 2020 was warning. It's coming. Beware. Remember the first quote at the beginning of this video. Are you looking? Because these 3 days of darkness are in a book about the sun god. The sun king, specifically. Samson. Shemesh is son in Hebrew. And in Paleo Hebrew, the N at the end is king for people, kingdom for places. Sun king. Samson. And so the first death that occurs in the story of Samson is the death of a lion. With a wedding and a beehive. If he's a Mormon of the latter days, where in the church is a lion house, a beehive house, and a temple where weddings are held? Remember, Judah is Utah, the symbol of the lion. See how awesome all this is? And Mormons hate me and want me dead? Seriously? Come on, because there's more. The second one, on the 14th of October 2023, in Virgo. What happens with the next death? It's his wife, who was taken away from him by her father, but then they were burned. Sunburns. I was out in the sun today, got a little more darker. Last week was the first day of burning, and no effect. Like I said, my one genealogical line from West Africa, I can be out in the sun forever. Not way back in high school, though, when I was kidnapped and forced to go to the beach. Oh, man, I'm blistered. Oh, man, I was in bed for a whole week. It was awful. And my bathroom is all the way downstairs. But, they should have let me stay. I didn't want to go. And so then the last one is Samson's death. This is where the Gospels mixes it up. Doesn't quite understand. He doesn't actually die. At least I hope not. He's supposed to survive and restore the kingdom. He's supposed to save the Jews, which is actually Judah, which is actually Utah, which is actually Mormons. But will the Jews know it, or will they be looking beyond the mark again? But yeah, Samson dies, and Bruce R. McConkie just says it's at a building. Bruce! It's at the temple! The evil, great and abominable church temple, where we were at the beginning of your story. The woman he marries is not of his tribe. She's a great and abominable church wife. That's a common theme in Genesis for the latter days. Thus the church is prophesied to be the great and abominable church. Brigham Young usurped it from Joseph, having him assassinated. And they screwed up a bunch of it. For example, it's Nephi, not Moroni. And it's the key of Moses for the first president, not Peter. and many other things. I did the Elias video the other day, for example. And so there you have Jupiter in Aries and the death in Pisces, the solar eclipse in Pisces, the birth date time period, the two fishes and the loaves riding on the back of the horse. So there you have it. So it's a reversal is what it is, even though it's a death of Jupiter, who is the latter-day Moses, the Horus figure. Because of the total solar eclipse in his birth area, it reverses it so that he's not the one who actually dies. It's just a sign of his death. Like the previous one I went over where it reversed itself. Nelson as Mars does not rise to the presidency. He's already in it, so he's falling with the eclipse. And Jupiter is now at the tail. Well, he's not falling, he's rising. It's a reversal. That's a reversal too. He's supposed to triumph. And so I put the picture of all three of them with their locations on Earth, the path on Earth, on the United States. And I put the annular eclipse picture in that one. And I didn't update it with a total solar eclipse, but yeah, that's all three of them. Comes from the book of Samson. Even that was quite awesome, cool. And then the last picture I will have here for you is X marks the spot, the first and the last days of darkness cross in the United States at Southern Illinois. Joseph Smith in 19 July 1840 says it is not Independence, Missouri, as many of you have supposed. He even tells the Mormons it's not there, guys, and yet to this day Mormons think we're going back to Missouri. I even thought about it, because when I did the July 2017 video, I'm saying the return to Missouri. I hadn't figured it out yet. I hadn't seen that document from the Joseph Smith papers. And yes, Zion is supposed to be built before the Christ comes. Oops. And we were supposed to save America from the insurrection that is going on right now. We're not supposed to help it so that Nelson can have his kingdom with polygamy and the protection racket of tithing while the church continues to get wealthy throughout all eternity and the Mormons suffer in mediocrity as slaves to the kingdom, as women are sex slaves being silent in conference and in church. Polygamy for the law of chastity. And so, yes, Southern Illinois is X marks the spot. The 21st of August, 2017, passed over Independence and Adam-on-Diamond. The third day of darkness, 8 April 2024, passes over the Joseph Smith Farm and Kirtland, Ohio. Now, how did they know that that would be the location? York writes with the Knights Templar. Knights Templar, or Friday the 13th, the bloodline, the Holy Grail, the bloodline, a mortal man, descendant of King David, descendant of Joseph, to restore the kingdom. They had Egyptian treasure plates that the Pope accused them over the Trinity God. They were worshipping the gods of the Egyptians and Baphomet, I think, was created then under him. That's the inverted pentagram that's in Isaiah of the Latin Vulgate. And they had to flee on Friday the 13th. Not everybody was caught, only a few were. And there was a group that went up to, is it off of Finland? There was an island off there in that little sea, and then they sailed to America, to Kensington, Minnesota, because it's not Wisconsin, so I think it's Minnesota. It's right next to the Dakotas, because the Mandan Indian tribe are in the Dakotas. They're the ones that made the sale arrangement to sell them the eastern half of the United States. So then they came to southern Illinois, and in the caves they buried in the ground as a voice whispering from the dust the Egyptian treasure plates in the caves. Anybody familiar with Joseph Smith and his 1838 claim to what happened in his since 1820 and then 1823? Yeah, it's all Knights Templar stuff. It's not magic and witchcraft. God. So, yeah, that's why Southern Illinois is supposed to be the mountain cities of Zion and New Jerusalem, so that Isaiah is fulfilled there, not in the top of the mountains here in Utah. So there you go. So yeah, expect after Thursday, if it happens before Thursday, like tomorrow, I'm going to be surprised. It's not going to fit the pattern. I'm going to have to call him up and say, hey guys, no, resurrect him. He's not supposed to die yet. Not dead yet. Bring out your dead. So, yeah. That's the pattern. Are you going to deny the prophets' prophecies? Are you going to deny scripture prophecies? Are you going to deny the signs in the heavens and the patterns? Because it's not me you're denying. Think about it. But don't think too long, because you're about to be compelled to believe if you refuse to believe on your own. And if you still deny after being compelled to believe, oh man, you are in big trouble. But yes, Mormons are in big trouble anyway. And I've done those videos. And it may be connected to the deaths of the prophets. It may be one after the other. Don't know which order. So, yeah, we got some terrible times coming. I hope you guys are listening and looking and seeking and knocking and all that stuff. Green River, by the way. I'm going to put Green River at the end here for you. Although, I didn't save it in the... I might have to redo the... but I did a nice thing on it.